Good morning and welcome to Down and Dirty on WMNF. Usually your host is John Dingfelder, but he is not here today. I am Janet Scherberger. I'm filling in for him while he is in Seattle. And with me is Tom Scherberger.
It's Tom.
And formerly my co-host, the two of us hosted Wave Makers on WMNF, and getting the band back together for this show, this guest hosting gig for Down and Dirty. Our guests in the studio today are filmmakers Todd Wiseman and Christa Boarini. Todd grew up in Tampa. He went to Blake High School and Freedom High School, and now lives in Ybor City. He's a graduate of New York University and is the writer and director of several award-winning independent films, one of which is set for theatrical release this spring. Welcome, Todd.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
And Christa is also a graduate of New York University's art school. She's originally from Guatemala, but now lives in St. Petersburg. Her recent producing credits include The Old Ways, which became the #1 horror film worldwide on Netflix the week of its release in 2021. Welcome, Christa.
Thank you for having me.
It's great to have you guys both here. Today we're going to talk about your latest project. Christa and Todd have set their sights on turning A Land Remembered into a TV series. And this book is beloved by everybody in Florida. We're outside Florida. It tells the story of the state through 3 generations of a family of cattle ranchers and orange growers. And it's an epic story that begins just before the Civil War and ends around 1968. And I'd say it's considered required reading for anyone who wants to understand Florida's history. It was published in 1984 and written by Patrick Smith. So let's talk first, Todd. How did you become familiar with this book? When did you first read it?
Special shout out to my mom, Robin Wiseman, who's Teacher of the Year at Tampa Palms Elementary this year.
All right.
Go, Mom.
Yes, and I come from a family of educators, so we were reading all the time as kids. The book, started to circulate at the time I was a kid, and that's when I first became familiar with it. But when I really fell in love with it, I read it as an adult. My brother gifted it to me for Christmas, and I put it down and closed the last page, and I had the same thought that I think almost everybody has, which is, why hasn't this been made into a movie or a TV show? Our angle was a TV show. I fought hard to jump in and get it done, and now it's about to happen.
And it's not the first time that somebody's tried to make this, right? I mean,
no, it's
like you said, everybody who reads it goes, "Oh, this has got to be a movie," and some people had that reaction, right?
Yeah, no, the book has been under option in one way or another since the 80s. They've had a lot of different attempts to try to make it real. At one point, I believe Tom Lee Jones was attached to it. People have tried, but one of the issues is I think they kept trying to make it into a movie and finding ways to do that. And it's so much book. The book is an epic. It's huge. It's 3 generations. It spans almost 100 years, and there's just no way to do this incredible story justice, limiting it down to what you can say in a 2-hour movie.
Right. So it does evoke some very stunning visuals. Tell me, Todd, what are some of your favorite scenes?
Well, I was sitting here in the lobby at your station and looking at this amazing Florida mural with a beautiful sunset. I want to show Florida in a way that even some Floridians don't know that it used to exist. People outside Florida have no clue whatsoever about the history of our state and sort of this unbridled beauty that we still have. So I love, there's a really important scene in the book, which is a metaphor for kind of everyone getting along at the watering hole. It's a moment in the book where predator and prey come together, and it's sort of witnessed by one of our main characters. And it's this sort of moment, this pause in the violence where we all just take a second and say, we need water, and we need this one resource to survive at all. And that's an interesting kind of part.
How about you, Christa? Any scenes that you're particularly excited about putting on film?
I'm from Guatemala, but I grew up coming to Florida pretty regularly. We'd, like so many people in Latin America, Miami was the place we'd come with family, and then my parents moved here while I was in college. So I'd visit regularly. They moved to Bradenton, very different than Miami. But so I've been coming to Florida my entire life. And I ended up moving here during the pandemic. the great reshuffling. And I never really expected that I would end up putting down roots in Florida. But what I found when I moved here is that I loved it. That I fell in love with. There's a beauty to Florida that I started appreciating more and more. That said, even with a lifetime of coming here, I had never seen the wild Florida like this project has exposed me to. And even in our initial, we've been traversing the state at this point for a year, looking at locations and looking at cattle ranches, preserves, going to, ecology research stations, et cetera. And that Florida is, people don't know it exists, and it's so important that people see it. And people will not care to protect something they don't know exists. And we have so many opportunities for incredible landscapes, for even the most basic, simple exterior shots of this is what the wilderness of Florida looks like, and let alone the moments where we're going to have cattle and our characters. There's so many incredible emotional moments, but the exterior beauty, we're going to be getting so much visual production value just from what Florida has to offer that people don't know is there.
I do want to ask you about one of my favorite scenes, mosquitoes.
Keeps coming up.
Yeah.
We got stopped in Tallahassee when we were up there lobbying for our appropriation by the mosquito guy. He was like, hey, I'm the mosquito guy. He gave us his card. And he's like, without me, no one would live here, basically.
Yeah. We just had the opportunity to speak to the Leadership Florida conferences last weekend. And we were one of 3 speakers on one of the days that kind of focused more on Florida history. And the first speaker was former St. Pete Mayor Rick Baker, who is a friend of ours and whose book on Florida history, Beyond the Sunshine, has been, we've been using it with our writers as a basis for the story. But a second speaker was former U.S. Senator George Lemieux, who wrote another book about the 25 most influential people in Florida. And it was interesting that one of the things he talked about was that more than air conditioning, which was one of the big technological changes that made people start moving down here, above the guy who invented air conditioning is the guy who started creating mosquito control, because he explained how really before that was the biggest barrier of entry, because people would just get malaria and die, so nobody wanted to move to Florida.
We were at the...
I was just going to say, for people who aren't familiar, there's a scene in the book where they encounter a swarm of mosquitoes, and it's so intense. It's a cloud of mosquitoes that clogs their nose and eyes and suffocates
literally
the cattle. Literally kills the cattle.
It's a horrifying, dramatic scene.
And so it's something that was, very unexpected, very dramatic.
But could that actually happen?
No, so we were at the Cattlemen's Convention in Marco Island, and another guy came up to us. Everyone wants to talk to us about these mosquitoes. And he was like, Patrick Smith got it wrong. He's like, you can't, he's like, a swarm of mosquitoes could never kill an entire herd of cattle. He said they can kill 1 or 2, they can kill a few. I've seen them kill dogs. They clog the airways, right? And so I think as we depict that scene, we will show the sort of horror of what it does to a couple of the animals. I don't think anyone's going to believe hundreds of cattle succumb.
Yeah.
I forgot about that scene at the watering hole. I love that. That is a really beautiful scene. The other scenes that I like are the scenes when they visit the Seminole Reservation. Is it a Seminole Reservation or an indigenous?
Or is it Miccosukee?
Well, it wasn't a reservation.
Yeah. It was actually not a reservation. It was actually where they lived.
They were just, seeking refuge in the
hiding in the Everglades.
In this inhospitable
what's now
area.
the Big Cypress Preserve, I suppose.
We went down there.
The description in the book sounds like what we saw in the Big Cypress.
The very first meeting we took about A Land Remembered was with the Seminole tribe down in Big Cypress. They pulled out the archives in their down in Big Cypress. It was incredible. We're in touch with them. We're in touch with the Miccosukee tribe. We really want to get it all right, both from a visual standpoint and from a historical accuracy standpoint. Both of these tribes have full-time anthropologists on staff. And actually, part of our state appropriation is dedicated to working with folks that are going to help us get it right.
Yeah, that's one of the compelling parts of the book, is the relationship between the pioneer settler and the Indians. I don't want to no spoilers here for those who haven't read the book, but he was a very unusual person for his time, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, well, I would say Patrick Smith had the absolute right intentions about, the story, the McIvey family, and Tobias McIvey is this sort of benevolent guy who just like wants to help everybody and work, and he's this beautiful character. How do we contextualize that for people in a time in Florida where that was not the norm? And for us, it's about building out the backstories of these characters a little bit more.
Because one of them is an African American who his right hand man, really, right?
The story of Skillet, in the book, this comes up a lot. In the book, they find him in the bushes, and they're like, "All right, you're part of our family now." And we all love that, but it's just not enough. So we have built out a really exciting backstory for Skillet that we will show in the TV show, and I think we'll be able to work with an amazing actor to bring him to life.
The other thing that I learned in the book is about that cattle were wild. The cattle were actually wild. That's what the first herds, they were rounding them up. That's what they were doing. I had no idea.
Yeah, people think of cowboys and they think of the Old West, but...
Yeah, no, so I think a lot of people don't realize that the first cattle coming to the United States first landed in Florida with the Ponce de Leon expedition. And that's briefly mentioned in the book. But yes, Ponce de Leon came. He brought cattle. He got mortally wounded by a Calusa native, and all the cattle got released. And subsequent Spanish expeditions brought more, and those cattle just became feral. They became wild, and the Seminoles would herd them as well. And over the course of 300 years, the cattle and also the pigs that they brought evolved and became the kind of the scrawny cattle that we now see in the book. That
scrawny yellowhammers.
The scrawny yellowhammers.
That's actually how we begin the series. We begin the series with that expedition because we need to contextualize.
Wow. Okay.
How did all these cows get here? How did all these pigs get here?
Oh, so you're going back to the 1500s.
Yeah. So we're going to, and season 1 has historical bookends, whereas season 2 will have modern day bookends. So we're going to try to tell a big story here.
Yeah, the book as written, or there's 2 different versions. We should probably mention there's an adult version and there's a young adult version, and the adult version starts in the 60s, I guess, right?
Yes.
And then the book is looking back, and so you're going to start even farther back.
Our version of this aligns closer with the YA version in terms of order. So we go Tobias, Zach, Saul, in that order. Whereas, the story of Saul bookends the adult.
Starts in 1960s and then gives you the backstory.
Exactly.
Yeah. So this is this epic story about cowboys, sort of. Is this the Yellowstone of Florida?
I think this is way cooler than Yellowstone. First of all, God bless Taylor Sheridan. He just got $1 billion for moving to NBC. But this story is way cooler than Yellowstone's a soap opera.
It is.
And when I encounter these, and Christa and I have traversed this, we've gone on roundups and markings and brandings, and we've met these multi-generational Floridians who say, we don't drop the F-bomb every other word. There's no Beth. There's no salacious, it's just a lot of hard work. And the beauty of A Land Remembered really is in this generational drama.
You mentioned Beth. There's also these incredible female characters.
Yes.
The horsewomen, that strong, pioneering women. They're amazing.
Absolutely, and that's something that we're also very excited to be able to expand upon further in the series. The series allows us to, change perspective and focus on different characters. And, in the book, Emma is presented as this very, loyal, strong character and, very beloved by all. We don't see a lot of her, what her life really looked like. And one of the things that we're excited to be able to show a little bit more is, when Tobias is struggling because he wasn't able to hunt down, dinner, they're just like, okay, I guess we'll just make do with swamp cabbage and biscuits. But we want to show that just making swamp cabbage and getting the cattail flour to make biscuits was backbreaking work for Emma.
You had to cut down a palm tree to make
we had to, and we've been going around. Really, that's part of the research we've been doing. Because Patrick D. Smith, one of the things that he did so well is this is a very well researched book. It is very grounded in real things, both historically and as far as their lifestyle. And we don't come from that world, and so we've been really looking into how did they prepare swamp cabbage? What did it take? And
Have you been to the Swamp Cabbage Festival yet?
Oh no, we've heard of it because we've been. I know we might have to go.
It's on the road.
But yeah, I for the longest time I was like, I want somebody to explain to me what is cattail flower. How does one get cattail flower?
We made it.
And so we we've that's been part of the research we've been doing. So we've been learning a lot.
Steve
Melton.
What a guy.
Yeah, Steve Melton is a cowboy. He's out in like Polk City area. And he preserves heritage arts. So we like milled barley. He does his own like cane syrup, the old-fashioned way. They have very old ovens like the ones Emma. For those who haven't read the book, there is an infamous, enormous cast iron stove in it, and they have those kind of stoves. And were explaining to us just how difficult it is to even get those things to work, to cook anything. Even anyway, to your point, Emma's job was just as backbreaking and grueling as a lot of the men's.
We should mention some of the female characters we're going to bring in a little bit earlier. There's certain places we'll stray from the book, but if anything, it's additive. So we might meet Glenda a little earlier. We might meet Tawanda a little earlier.
Okay. So it's not a wholly flattering portrait or uplifting story. I mean, it's titled A Land Remembered because the Florida of today is not the Florida that it was 100 years ago, this wild, unspoiled land. How are you addressing that?
I mean, it's in the title, right? It's this project, for me, has this really beautiful and unique ability to bring everybody together. This is not a divisive story. It's not a political story. It's a story about the land that we live on here in Florida, which is incredible. And everyone recognizes it. And I think I'm really proud to be a Floridian. I'm really proud that the state was the first organization to back us. The city of Tampa and the state of Florida put in the first $1 million for this project.
How did you get the legislature? Wow. The Florida legislature does not like funding film, or hasn't in at least a decade.
This project transcends politics. It does not have to. It's truly about Florida and our history and our sort of shared love of the land. I don't know anyone on any side of the political aisle that's going to say we hate the land or we want to destroy the land. Everyone is on the same page about that.
Well, the legislature is also appropriating millions of dollars to buy conservation rights to a lot of this land that you're probably going to be shooting on.
The Florida Wildlife Corridor is an amazing initiative that has been backed by a great group of people. And at the end of the day, DeSantis had to sign off on this appropriation, and he did.
And if you're just tuning in, you're listening to not Wavemakers. I'm sorry, that's old school. You're listening to Down and Dirty on WMNF, and Janet and Tom Scherberger filling in for John Dinkfelter today, and our guests are filmmakers Todd Wiseman and Christa Boarini, and we're talking to them about their work turning the book A Land Remembered, a beloved book about the history of Florida, it's fiction, into a TV series. A Land Remembered is the book. And so let's talk a little bit more about that, about where you're at in the process. You said you're getting funding from the state. You've had funding from the city of Tampa. Tell us where you're at. When does filming start? Where are you at? And you're doing it independently rather than working with the studio. So talk to us a little bit about that.
So, Christa, why don't you start by talking about your idea to make this as an independent TV show? I'll talk about the funding.
Sure. So my background is in independent film production. A lot of people don't necessarily know what that means, but it just means that the funding for the movies that I produce does not come from an institutional financier like a studio. As producers, we raise the funding independently. There's a kind of more risk, more reward. We're able to make projects without the kind of 17 cooks in the kitchen that would come with a studio, and do them more nimbly at a very high production value for a lower budget. And then we sell those films into the distribution system so that when people watch them, they don't, you don't realize that this project was independently financed and then sold to a distributor. You consume them the same way you would. So, I've made movies that sell to Netflix and Hulu, and for the audience, it's all the same. It's just a movie that they click and watch or go to the theater and watch. That has been a model that has existed and thrived, since the 70s. A lot of the movies you've seen, you probably don't realize that they were made independently and successfully sold. That's different than the standard television model. The television was very hard to do independently. Really couldn't be done independently, especially more traditional television. You know, a season would be 26 episodes, and there's just no way to feasibly finance the 26 episodes before there is a seller. That it goes against the system, at least how it used to work. But the industry is changing a lot. I'm sure every listener here is aware that the way people consumed movies and television series has changed radically, and you know, since then there's been a lot of big inflection points in the industry. There's been strikes, there was COVID, and so the industry is now it looks very different. Television looks very different, and the studios are struggling. Warner Brothers just went up for sale, you know, and you know they have had all these successful movies, but they're still $35 billion in debt. So the studios are just having a hard time right now. They all created streaming platforms. They all kind of went into this race to the bottom with Netflix a few years ago, trying to see who could provide the most quality content for the less amount of money on a streamer. And, you know, people were wondering, well, what is this finance? Well, how is this model financially viable? And well, it turns out it's not. And now they're struggling, and they all have these platforms, and they need content. So there's an opportunity now for independent television, for us to create a limited series. And there's other people starting to do this, but we're really at the forefront of this of this vacuum starting to be filled with creating a full season, not 26 episodes. We're doing 4 episodes, being able to entirely finance and create it at a very high, again, a high production value, but doing it more nimbly, and then being able to then sell it into the studio system for these streamers that are you know, that want content.
Is there a model, a series that has been created like this?
The best example for us is actually The Chosen. The Chosen, they crowdfunded $10 million, and it's because of their very public spat with Angel Studios. It's we can see some of the economics there. It's a $250 million property now. It's huge, and they did something very interesting that we're going to take advantage of. So, A Land Remembered has a huge regional following. The IMAX business is very regional. The theatrical business can be very regional. So we actually want to four-wall this in, certain episodes in theaters in Florida before it goes and hits the streaming markets.
To build up an audience.
I think it could probably be in conjunction, and ultimately it will be up to the distributor.
So you're still in the fundraising phase?
We are fundraising right now, and we're very far along, and we will be filming in March. Okay,
great. And you're filming on location? You're going to film all in Florida?
Actually, the novel has some Georgia flashbacks with Tobias and Zach. So there's a possibility we pick those up in northern Florida or Georgia. But the vast majority of this will be shot in Florida. And Hollywood, we took this project out before we decided to make it independently. And they said, well, one, it's going to cost 10x what we're actually going to make it for. And you can't make it in Florida. You got to make it in Georgia because there's no tax credit. So this is truly going to be a Florida homegrown project.
So appropriate for Land Remembered, right? I mean, it
absolutely,
just captures the whole ethos of the book.
It would be hard to get some of the scenes of Florida in Georgia.
Well,
I know they recreated Ybor City in Brunswick, Georgia.
Shame.
But
huge shame.
Even though Ybor City is like a movie set ready to go.
But to your point, like Holly, if this was going to a studio, they would shoot in Georgia, and if Floridians can recognize that the landscape isn't accurate, they just wouldn't care. Right? They, that every movie, as you said, that has been set in Florida in recent years has been filmed in either Georgia, North Carolina, or the Dominican Republic. And that's a shame. We didn't want to do that. It'd be a travesty, for something that is about the land and the landscape to be not filmed on the land and landscape that it talks
I think
about.
that's fabulous. I love that.
But
it works perfectly.
There's a reason they're shooting them in Georgia, right?
Yeah. And so I can talk about that. So, we told that to the legislator. We asked for help, and they gave it to us. There's no tax incentive in the state of Florida. So if I spend $10 million in Georgia, the government, more or less, of Georgia writes me back a $4 million check, no questions asked. I have to tick some boxes and hire some locals and whatever. So there's a 40% tax credit. Now, even that's not enough for Hollywood. They're all moving to the UK and Europe for even bigger incentives, less unions, and just an easier way to work. So what we're creating here is something that needs everyone's help. We need the help of private equity folks who have come in to say, let's do this thing in Florida. The government helped us. I can't say enough about Tyler, who's the film commissioner of Tampa, who really started this whole effort. and said, we're going to put up the first 500K, go to Tallahassee and get them to match it. And they did.
I love that Tampa's participating. What was the reaction? I mean, when you went to Tallahassee, were all the lawmakers familiar with the book?
Unbelievable.
It was incredible.
We were standing in the rotunda with a big sign that said "Land Remembered" for our press release, and as we did, all these random state senators and representatives just started standing behind us for the press release. I mean, we were just to be in the picture because
that's so funny.
It's beloved.
They've read the book.
They've all read the book and love it as we've mentioned. They all have it in their office. But it was interesting because they didn't just stand behind us for this talk at the rotunda. They two of them came up and spoke on behalf of and support of the project, and we hadn't met them yet. They were just supporting the project and what it stands for, and just couldn't wait to express it. And
on top of that, just filming, it's so Florida grown. I just love it. The book, the series that you guys are doing, I think that's just so perfect for A Land Remembered. I love it. We're gonna take a break right now. We'll be right back. We're gonna take a break and let you know about an event that's coming up that I think might be of interest to our guests.
It's time for another Wavemakers Live, WMNF's new quarterly speaker series featuring thought-provoking conversations in front of a live audience. Our guest will be William Osceola, an elected leader of the Miccosukee tribe, which has called the Florida Everglades home for centuries. 50 years ago, the Miccosukee helped stop the construction of a giant airport in the heart of the Everglades, a legal battle that led to the creation of the Big Cypress Preserve. Today, the tribe is at the forefront of another legal battle, this time against Alligator Alcatraz, the immigrant concentration camp built in the preserve on the very land where the airport would have gone. Please join us Thursday, November 20th at the Commodore in Ybor City for Miccosukee Unconquered. Doors open at 7 and the discussion starts at 7:30. Go to WMNF.org for details.
And we're back.
And we hope all of you listening will join us, and hope our guests, because this is really going to be an interesting conversation about the unique Miccosukee culture and how they've been fighting to preserve the Everglades for ever, because that's their home.
And that's on November 20th at the Commodore in Ybor City. So we're back with our guests, Todd Wiseman Jr. and Christa Boarini. They are filmmakers who are working on turning A Land Remembered, the beloved book about Florida history, into a TV series. So you said you're going to start filming in March.
Yes.
And you're going to be working in Florida. Tell me about who else you've talked to about the project. It's all different kinds of people. Like you've talked to lawmakers, but you've talked to the Florida Cattlemen's Convention and the Seminole Tribe, the Miccosukees, the Polk County Farm Bureau, even a scientist and a psychologist. Tell me, why a scientist and a psychologist?
Well, I'm going to keep shouting out Hillary Swain.
Yeah, Hillary Swain was incredible. So one of the things that we've mentioned is that, we've gone on all these places around Florida, but to look at these lands. But the land has changed a lot. A lot of land, even that doesn't have construction on it, has been improved pasture, or there are now invasive species that change what the landscape looks like. So we went out to Archbold Station and spoke to Hillary Swain, who is a conservationist and a scientist and one of the head researchers there. And she's incredible. And she took us around showing us areas that are authentically preserved and still look like what they did 150 years ago, without invasive species, without having been improved and then restored. And she showed us, this is what a real Florida scrub is. This is what the trees it would or would not have seen on it. And
some really fun fact is they love burning it all down every once in a while. The fire,
they're supposed to, right?
I know, isn't that cool? And you can become something called a burn boss. I don't know if you've ever heard of this. I mean, this is great stuff.
I want that job.
We were down at a ranch last week and with this gentleman who he's telling us about being on an airboat with a flamethrower and starting.
Oh my God.
And he's got a license to do this. And they burn it down, they let it grow back up. And there are Floridians all over this state who are dedicated to preserving the land as it was. And the conservation easement program is very instrumental in that. You cannot use it for certain purposes. It's got to kind of maintain its original.
I just want to add that we got very excited when we started learning about how they burned the scrub, because there may or may not be scenes that involve fire. And we were like,
Lots of fire.
We could just burn it all. That'd be great.
Just go film it.
Never tell a filmmaker you can burn down a small forest.
And like the Polk County Farm Bureau, what was it? What did you talk to them about?
We've spoken in a few places like that, and they've been so gracious. There's so many supporters there, but they're also representatives of the modern day lifestyle that the book talks about, right? These are when we spoke to the Polk City Farmers Bureau dinner, we're talking to ranchers and people who are often multi-generational Floridians whose families really mirror the McIvy family's journey, and they identify very strongly with the book. And being able to like tap into and really reach that audience and learn about their lifestyle is also very important.
They see their lives in that book, right? That's the way they see it. This could be us.
Absolutely. And the McIvy family is this is historical fiction, but it's representative of all the families. And I've had so many families say, this story is about our family. Well, if it was about your family, it would have been named after your family. It's a fictional family, and it's an amalgamation of all these different amazing stories. Is this a good time to plug the audition?
Do it.
We are doing a big open casting call for Zach McIvy. We're looking for...
Explain who's
the character?
Zach is Generation 2. He's the son of Tobias.
Who wields a gun when he's 8 or something like that, I think.
Like a true Floridian. Yeah. And we're looking for a kid who can actually ride. So we're actually going to host basically like a little youth rodeo, and that's on November 22nd. The casting is open, and it's all available at alandremembered.org. You can go there and check out the casting call. And you can get in touch with us and participate if you're... we're looking for a particular age demographic. It's all the information.
What is the age?
I think we said 8 to 13.
Okay, so this is for the young Zach.
Yeah, so season 1, he's young. Season 2, he's a bit older. It'll be 2 different actors. But I would love a real Floridian to play Zach. Why not?
A real cowboy.
Yeah, and I produced the Kids Bop ads for about 10 years, so I know that
I love Kids Bop.
Me too. Who doesn't love Kids Bop? And these kids, you're not going to find somebody with years and years of acting experience if you're 8. We can work with them there. What we're looking for is a kid that can ride.
Just that's the only character that you're doing that for?
Everyone else will be kind of more traditionally cast.
And do you have are you working with any big name actors or?
We will. Tobias will be a star, and we're very close to being able to announce.
Go ahead and say
I
it.
Can't.
We won't tell anybody.
Soon, stay tuned. You got to listen to this radio show every day.
You do. Please
so you just mentioned, you talked about how many seasons is it going to be? Have you thought about that?
Yeah, so Lonesome Dove is our best comp for this. It's sort of 2 4-part series, and that encompasses most of the narrative events of the book. But the door gets left open for a 3rd season. We don't want it to go on and on and on. The McIvy story has a definitive end. But A Land Remembered, the idea and the brand and the company, is much cooler than Yellowstone, as I've said. And we can tell a lot of different Florida stories under that banner.
I think, by the same token that people don't realize the cattle history of Florida and how really the first and baddest cowboys are originally from Florida, and but there's so many other aspects of Florida history that are really unknown to most people in the United States, in the world, and even here in Florida. From everything from the pirating history, the Seminole Wars. There's so many incredible aspects of it that would make really, really fascinating stories, and we look forward to the opportunity to be able to find other ways to bring Florida history to life.
And there is another point, not to do a spoiler alert here, but there is a certain preservation component to it at the end.
In the novel,
yes.
Saying. And in the series, it's the name of the book, A Land Remembered, and it's about the land. The characters are what moves us through this sweeping kind of big picture narrative, but it's about the land.
If you're just tuning in, you're listening to Down and Dirty on WMNF with your guest hosts, Janet and Tom Scherberger. And our guests in the studio today are filmmakers Todd Wiseman Jr. and Christa Boarini, who are working on turning the beloved historical fiction about Florida history, A Land Remembered, into a TV series. And I'll open up the phone lines if you want to give us a call. You can call us at 813-239-9663 or send an email to WMNF.org and talk to us. Tell us, ask questions of the filmmakers, or tell us what your experience is of the book, A Land Remembered. Did you read it? Did you love it? We do have an email from David Bryant, and I'm going to read it. David, thanks for sending us an email. He says, great job with the show today. I worked at Pineapple Press in the late 90s, and A Land Remembered was hugely popular back then. I had a chance to meet Patrick Smith a few times for book signings and public appearances, and he was such a great guy. I loved his Southern accent. He loved his fans. And David says, the owners of Pineapple Press took a leap when they first published the book. And that he believes that Smith was turned down by several big-name publishers when he was shopping the book around in the 80s. Do you know anything about that, you guys? Todd,
I just know that
Christa?
that Patrick Smith was nominated for the Pulitzer and the Nobel Prize in Literature. Yeah. So,
wow.
Mic drop.
And his son has continued his legacy with tours of talking about his dad and talking about the book, and he used to go around Florida giving these presentations for Florida Humanities. And
that's 813-239-9663 if you want to talk to us a little bit about your experience of A Land Remembered, or send us an email at dj@wmnf.org. So let's talk a little. The phone lines are ringing, so we'll take some calls. But first, let's move on really quickly to talk about one of your other projects. Some of your other projects. You did a short film in 2017 called Long Shot that I think people can see that on Netflix.
Yeah.
And that's it's about 30 minutes long.
Fascinating story. It moves very quickly, and it features Larry David.
Yes, I'm one of the producers of that movie, not the director. Director Jacob Lamondola, amazing guy, also went to film school with us. I think he found the story on IMDb, like Larry David accidentally saved a guy from death row.
Yeah.
We're like, we got to look into this. It took a while to get Larry David on board, but once he was helped us participate.
He seemed very happy to talk about how he freed a guy.
It seems like it would be a perfect thing for Curb Your Enthusiasm. It would be like an episode. I could see that as an episode of Curb Your Enthusiasm.
I always say that there's no secret to Larry David. He's exactly as you would expect.
Well, tell us the story, though.
The story. So this gentleman, Juan Catalan, was wrongfully accused of murder, sort of picked out of a lineup there, and probably racially profiled, and they were like, you murdered somebody. And he's like, I didn't. I was at a Dodgers game. And they were like, well, do you have your ticket? No, I paid in cash. What do you have? All he remembers was that they were filming a TV show there, and it just so happened to be Curb Your Enthusiasm. It's a cool story. It has many twists and turns. And it's still on Netflix. Long Shot.
Yeah,
and so
really
bottom line is that they go through all the archival film of the filming of Curb Your Enthusiasm. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay. He doesn't want me to spoil. Okay, go watch it. Go watch it.
That was a funny episode of Curb Your Enthusiasm, too, because Larry David hires a sex worker so he can take the carpool lane. That is so Larry David, right?
All right. Let's go. Let's take a quick call from Chris in Tarpon Springs. Let's see. Chris. Do I have you, Chris?
Chris from Tarpon Springs.
Chris in Tarpon Springs, are you there?
We're still here, so we'll keep talking.
Yeah.
It looks to me do we have his sound up, Skip? Mm-hmm. All right. Well, let's try over on this one. Chris in Tarpon Springs. Okay, Chris. Well, that's not happening, so we'll get back to you, Chris. We'll see if we can figure it out. Send us an email at wmnf.org, and I'll read your email. Okay, so another film that you did.
Oh, wait, we got it.
Chris, are you
Chris?
there?
Yes, I am. I'm driving, so I can't send the email. I just have a quick story.
Oh, don't. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, it's a quick story about natural Florida. We were kayaking to Anclote Key, and many times we've gone in the winter and climbed the tower there, the lighthouse, and now you can't do that. But there was another time I took my friend Josh, and we went in the summer. And as soon as we crossed from the sand on the beach across the tree line, I looked at his back, and this is a big guy, big bodybuilder, tough guy, and I saw this stuff. It looked like he had a fur coat on. So I was like, what, did something fall on him or did he get dirt on him? So I went and wiped this stuff off his shoulder, and my hand was full of blood. Mm-hmm. It was mosquitoes, and they had completely covered his body.
Oh, my gosh.
So I got to say...
they were getting me, too, but I was a few steps behind. And so when he brought up that cow story, I was like, well, I can kind of see that happening because we ran out of there like a couple little girls screaming, got in the water, and hightailed it back.
Chris, you're reinforcing why I need to tell this story because when I was 7 years old, I was like, I want to go camping for my birthday. And from 7 until I got too old, every year on my birthday, which is July 15th in the summer, we camped on Anclote Key. And I could pick 3 friends, and we'd go out there, and we'd get eaten alive, and we'd have a fire, and we'd try to catch raccoons, and we just had the time of our lives. But what a beautiful little slice of preserved Florida that is.
Yeah.
Sure is.
Thanks for the call, Chris.
Thank you.
Now we've got Carol in Lakeland.
Are you there, Carol?
Yes, I am.
What is your question?
Well, mine isn't as lengthy as the prior caller, but I was just asking, how are you going to depict the ponies that eventually helped them find the cattle because they were a very specific...
The marsh tacky.
Yeah, the marsh tacky.
Yeah, the marsh tacky.
Good question.
Yeah, that's a great question, Carol. So we...
I just wondered how they were going to do that.
Yeah, we're going to be using a real marsh tacky.
Yeah, explain what a marsh tacky is.
Yeah, marsh tacky is a breed of horse that is now actually endangered because they're not really used very widely. Most people who have them almost as collection pieces. They're very similar, almost the same thing as a Carolina tacky. And but there are people who still have them. A lot of the people who have them also have what they call cracker cow, which are...
But the marsh tackies allowed them to go through the swamps.
They're a specific type of horse, but yeah, we will be using a real one, and that's part of the reason that we're, for example, trying to find a Zechariah Mackay you can ride, because we do want them to actually be riding these horses.
Okay. We've got, and if you want to call, 813-239-9663. We're talking about turning A Land Remembered into a TV series with filmmakers Christa Boarini and Todd Wiseman Jr. We've got Vinny in Dunedin. Vinny in Dunedin, you are on the line, I think. Are you there?
Yeah, I hear you, Vinny.
Am I on the line?
Yes, you are.
Oh, hey, good morning. And thank you for what a wonderful project. I couldn't think of a better one in terms of an independent film making. You guys are incredibly courageous, but that project, I love the book. I've read it several times. I bought my grandson the illustrated version. It's kind of the comic book version.
Yeah.
So Land Remembered, yeah, it's just perfect. And the idea of doing it in installments or whatever you call that is great, of course, great idea. I'd like to share a couple of quick things about my experience with the book, and if you don't mind. So I came to Florida in 2006. I was in the meat business, but through a series of circumstances got in the insurance business, and I helped people with their benefits. And but while in the meat business, we used to laugh at Florida beef. Florida put out more beef than any state in the union up until 1945 or so. We're still number 3 in terms of beef production in the country, believe it or not. And I didn't know any of that. But we used to laugh at Florida beef because it was considered not great beef. And when I got to Florida, I got in the insurance business, as I said. I'd been a chef and then a meat guy. And I met a family, and the Albritons. I went out to their operation, and I said hello to the owner, and I told him because of M&F and all the experiences I've had so far in Florida that I just love the culture of Florida. I love the history, and I knew that his family was one of the old families of Florida. So it was a pleasure to meet him, and he looked at me in the eye, and he's a big guy, and he said, "Did you ever read A Land Remembered?" And I said, "Well, no, honestly, but I've heard of it." He goes, "You ought to read that book." So I said, "Well, yes, sir, I will read that book." And I read the book, and, I mean, it just blew my mind.
Yeah.
And being a history guy, all those stories, the mosquitoes, when it overcame the cattle. And they
Everybody loves the mosquito story.
Yeah, that's funny. Vinny.
Unbelievable. But, Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was going to say thanks for the call. I want to move on because we've only got 10 minutes left and a lot to talk about and other callers. But Vinny, thanks for the call. Appreciate it very much.
Sure. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Let's hear Deandra in Brandon has a question that's about, labor contracts. Curious about that. Deandra from Brandon, you're on the line, I think. Are you there?
Deandra, are you there?
All right. Well, if we get her, if you show up, if we get you, Deandra, you can text, you can email us. I do want to read another email that we have from Tina in Brooksville, who says she's read Land Remembered numerous times, and she says all Florida residents knew, or anyone with Florida origins should read it. Everyone explains so much about our state. I agree. Required reading for sure. Someone's asking about the audition, about the kid actor. Why don't you go ahead? Can you tell us about that again? We'll mention that a couple more times.
Audition?
Yeah, the audition that you're doing.
Yeah, so alandremembered.org. You can go there and find all the information about the casting call. It's an open casting call, which is very rare in our industry.
And what's the date?
It's the November 22nd. You do not have to bring a horse. We will have a horse if you don't.
In Polk City.
Polk City, and all the details will be there. You can drop a line to the casting director.
Okay.
But yeah, we want real Floridian kids to come out, and it'll be kind of fun. We'll have a barbecue, and we'll all get together.
Alandremembered.org is where you can get information on the audition. It's November 22nd?
Yes.
November 22nd. Do I have Deandra? I think I got her. You there, Deandra?
Hello, can you hear me?
Oh, it's Deandra Mann. I'm sorry. Hi. DeAndre, I think probably.
DeAndre,
hey.
what's on your mind?
Oh, I just wanted to mention that there are a lot of people who work in infrastructure, code enforcement for decades. They're elderly and such, but if you understand, I guess Fowler Avenue and some of these roads, like going through the Temple Terrace 301, going up Separate Hills, and out east along 60, a lot of that was just barren, and it kind of just fruited out of nowhere. But there was a lot of labor.
Wait, DeAndre, we're talking about the Land Remembered, the book.
And so there are a lot of people who worked in code enforcement, construction, and et cetera, who may be elderly, who could probably provide some input as far as I don't know, just like landmarks and
okay.
As far as we all know about the highwaymen and their work.
Yeah.
Yes.
I wonder, so I just wanted to make mention of just folks, veterans of Vietnam who ended up in, I've known who ended up in those works and such. So I just want to just kind of throw that out there,
for sure.
Yeah.
Might be able to provide some history and insight for the filmmakers.
Well, the highwaymen.
I was going to say to his point that we have made a real effort to be speaking, like I said, to multi-generational families who have are able to share what was their great grandfather's story, and things like that. And we're talking to not just historians and anthropologists, but also people whose families have been here a long time, who can tell us, little details. Like we spoke to somebody recently who was like, my grandfather used to fry frog legs because that's, he came from this lifestyle, and she remembered so vividly when she was very, very young that the frog legs would jump out of the frying pan. And just so little real life flavors like that we're adding, thanks to being able to speak to people who either themselves or their families have been here a very long time.
We got an email from Paul Gray, who wonders if you've been to the Kissimmee Prairie Preserve State Park. The office is in the hammock that Patrick Smith stayed at to get ambiance for the
Yes, we have. Yeah, and it's a beautiful area. We've visited there and a lot of the kind of properties around it, looking for...
That's very classic kind of
it is. It's beautiful
landscape
out there.
that
Absolutely.
you would be filming in. I also wanted to mention that you're going to be filming in Ybor City, too, a little bit. You're hoping to? Or
Our production offices are based in Ybor City.
Ybor City, okay.
And we're hoping to kind of shoot some of the studio stuff there.
Okay.
A lot of big old warehouses.
We've got just a few minutes left, so I want to really quickly touch on another film that you did called School Duel, which tells the story of a near-future Florida where school shootings are so common, the AR-15 toting governor has mandated that contests to the death be organized. that is going to be in theaters in March. Tell us about that.
That movie, the trailer's out on IndieWire, and the acquisition was just announced. I think it's probably less radical than it seems when you watch it. I am someone who grew up in Florida and hunted and grew up with guns. And so people, when they think about the gun debate, they say, no guns or guns. And that's actually not the debate. It's not possible. And so I think the conversation about what's happening when our kids are killed in school, it's I can't think of anything more horrific. I can't think of anywhere else where this happens on a regular basis. But I think if we're just saying guns or no guns, we just draw a huge line in the sand and nothing's ever going to get done. So I think that conversation's a lot more nuanced. And I made that film as a gun owner. And I think I can't wait for people to see it and see what they think.
So that was originally showed at a film festival in France. It was in the Miami Film Festival, independently made. The two of you made it together, and now it's going to be in major theaters.
It'll be in, at least a 10-city theatrical run. Oscar Nunez from the TV show The Office plays in the film, and a couple of Stranger Things kids, and it's a lot of fun.
Okay.
Awesome.
And then you have another film called The Exit Room. That's something that we can look at. That's also available online. That's short, just a 9-minute film that came out in 2013.
Yeah.
Based on a short story, correct?
Yeah, so that was my first short film out of NYU Film School, and it's based on an occurrence at Owl Creek Bridge. It does kind of, if you know that story, it kind of gives away the ending, but it stars Christopher Abbott, who's an actor who I really love. He was in Poor Things, and he was recently Wolfman. He's had a great career since.
Okay. And then tell us one more time about how people can get more information about A Land Remembered. So the website, is that all that it has, is information about the...
Yeah. Very limited, yeah.
Yeah, but you have, there's information about the casting, and there's also a form to reach us if anybody wants to send us a message. You can find all the information on alandremembered.org.
And that's a way for people to do...
Yep. There's a contact form, and there's all the information for how to submit for our open casting call for Zechariah McIvy, because we know he's out there.
Please stop finding my phone number on the internet. We get calls, letters, texts, emails every day, and we're so excited to hear from everyone, but fill out the form.
Fill out the form, okay. Do you want to close out here and just talk to us what you think about the film industry in Florida? I know that's a lot in a few minutes, but tell us where your head is out on that.
The future is bright. We're calling it the free state of filmmaking. It's going to be a beautiful place where, independent cinema thrives and independent television thrives. Hollywood's broken down to its very core. We need support from all sides of the aisle to be able to restart a little industry here, and we're starting with A Land Remembered.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of, there is also an incredible crew base. There's a lot of talented people already here, and we look forward to being able to do what we're doing with Floridians who are creative, talented, working people in the film industry. And the A Land Remembered is the beginning of a much bigger picture.
Do you think you could get the legislature to recreate a film incentive program like we once had?
That's our goal. But, this is a great project to help move that needle. We have to pull it away from politics and think about it through the lens of industry and jobs and tourism. People are going to come. When people watch A Land Remembered, they're going to come to Florida.
Well, didn't you get funding from Visit Florida? Is that correct?
Visit Tampa Bay.
Yeah, Visit Tampa Bay.
Visit Tampa Bay. Okay.
Yeah. The film incentive in Tampa is through the Visit Tampa Bay program.
Oh, okay. All right.
We're asking for a little more support from Pinellas, Orlando, a couple other counties as well.
And filming starts in March. When would you finish, do you think?
By the end of next year, season 1 will be done shooting.
Oh, okay. And so that would mean that we'd see it maybe in 2027?
Hopefully early 2027, maybe even before. You never know.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks for being with us, Todd Wiseman Jr. and Christa Boarini, filmmakers who are turning A Land Remembered into a television series. Thank you, Joe, for answering our phones. Thank you, Skip, for running the board. Up next, after the NPR News, is The Skinny with Mitch Perry. I see him over there in the other studio.
I see Charlie Justice in there, too.
There's Charlie Justice. Stay tuned for more from WMNF all day today and all night tonight.